Good morning, Algebra 2. Thank you for watching this video to figure out how to be extra awesome with making these graphs for your Unit 8 activity. A couple things about this. Remember, Desmos.com will be your friend. You can save your graph by clicking the Save button. They might have you either link it to your Google account that you already have set up on your device, or you can just make an account with Desmos. Either way, Desmos.com, you can save it. If you try to use the Desmos app, you cannot save your graph, which would be sad, so don't do that. So your graph, here I have typed in y equals x squared. Down here with my keyboard, remember with your graph you can add anything to it or subtract. If I subtract 2, I'm going to move my graph down 2. All of those rules still apply. The purpose of this video is to show you how to put some constraints on it. So if I zoom out on this graph, you see that this graph goes on forever and ever and ever. Well, let's say I don't want that. What if I only want this graph to show up right here, just there, and then chop off right there? What I can do is down here, click the ABC button, and it's these brackets. What we're going to do is we're going to set a domain. So click on those brackets and you're going to say, okay, where do you want it to show up? Well, let's say I'm making, I don't know, a boat or a smiley face or something, and I want my graph to stop right at that point. Well, that is where x is -3. So I'm going to type in here where -3 is less than x. See how it chopped it off right there? So -3 is less than x. So reading that backwards, x can be anything bigger than -3. But I don't want it to go on forever in that direction either. Let's chop it off at 3 over there. So it's less than 3. And you can see that it specified where on the graph it's going to show up. It certainly doesn't have to be equal. The -3 and 3, I could stop it at 2. So see here, x is 0, x is 1, x is 2, and the graph only shows up until where x is 2, and then it stops. Pretty cool. Another example of this, let's say we want a vertical line. Let's say x is 5, or 4. Maybe we can see it a little better. X is 4. But what if we don't want it the whole way? We only want it from the bottom of our parabola to the top of where that chops off. Well, again, go down to those brackets and let's set our constraint. Well, we want where x is 4 only where, now it wouldn't make sense to type in an x value because our x stays 4. Now we're going to chop off at our y values. Looks like y is between -2, and then if we go all the way up, it's to where y is 7. So -2 is less than y. See how that chopped it off at the bottom? Is less than 7, we said. And that we were able to chop it off right at the top where we wanted it, or down at the bottom. So whether or not you put x in there or y kind of depends on, do you want to chop it off going up and down? Or do you want to chop it off going side to side? I'll show you one more example that might clear the air here. I'm going to make another parabola. Let's do y equals, but I'm going to move it over to the left this time. So x plus 9. Let's square it, and I moved it over. Now let's say that I'm not going to constrain it with my x values like I did over here, from -3 to 2. What I'm going to do now is I want to chop it off vertically. So with my brackets, let's say I want it to show up only between where y is 5 and y is 10. So 5 is less than y is less than 10. So see how this parabola I chopped off vertically. I said I only want it to show up where my y value is 5 to 10, in that range. So you can chop a parabola off, or any graph for that matter. You can chop it off by constraining your x values like we did on the first one, saying our x is between -3 and 2, or you can chop it off with your y values. For example, this black one, saying we only want it between where our y is 5 and 10. Of course, this works with any sort of function we want. Let's say instead of that, we want the absolute value of x plus 9. Absolute value is that v, but we chopped it off. I'm going to cut this out for a second. There's our absolute value. Now if I'm going to put that constraint back in, I only want it to show up between where my y is 5 and 10. Only between 5 and 10. 5 and 10 on my y value. So constraining it with your x's or your y's, either one. You can move your graphs around like usual. Go ahead and play around with it. If you have any questions, please let us know. And also remember to save your graph. You can only save on Desmos.com, so hopefully you get started using that web browser instead of the app. Thank you.